Do you think Reanimator is more popular than Show and Tell?
Hard to say at this point. I think among some of the more named players, I think it's more popular, which makes me think they're onto something. Show and Tell is a little more of a glass cannon sort of deck in that it plows forward with its game plan and hopes for the best. I think Reanimator lets a player play cards with a lot more decisions in it. I think more pro players will gravitate toward it for those reasons.
So Gerry Thompson's creature base in the main deck is 4 Gristlebrand, pretty standard. 1 Elishnorn Grand Cenobite, it's fairly standard, I would say.
Sure.
1 Blazing Archon, a little bit interesting, right?
Sure.
Against like the other Show and Tell and Reanimator decks. And we got 1 Tidespout Tyrant.
Alright, so Tidespout Tyrant, a card from Dissension. It is 5 triple blue for a 5/5. Whenever you cast a spell, you may return a permanent to its owner's hand.
Right.
Typically when I've seen that play, I saw it with Sensei's Divining Tops. I think in ages ago that saw some play in Vintage,
it was also a very popular Oath of Druids creature.
Right.
That you could just combo out on your opponent and bounce all their moxes and whatnot.
Both players keeping on 7. Gerry cracking a polluted Delta. He will be on the play. Remember, his deck essentially Entomb, 4 Entomb, 4 Reanimate, 4 Animate Dead, 1 Exhume. Fairly straightforward of what it's going to do.
Also 4 Careful Study.
So he's going to Entomb the Gristlebrand. And both of these players are on 6 cards, for the record.
Now, most players will remember that Reanimator used to run 3 Jin-Gitaxias.
Right.
Very recently.
And that's where Gristlebrand is really coming into play.
Gristlebrand is just a strictly better creature.
So he's going to go for the Reanimate.
Go for the Reanimate on turn 1. David Thomas has a lot of counter magic.
4 Spell Pierce, 4 Daze, 4 Force of Will. Daze, remember, not going to be good enough here.
But he's got double Force in his hand. Let's see what he removes. Force to Force. He's keeping a Daze.
Okay. Keeping the Daze presumably because he doesn't have another blue card to pitch the second Force to.
Sure.
Otherwise, I think Force is definitely the stronger card here. But remember, Rug Delver, every time it casts a Force of Will, it 2-for-1s itself, which is rarely especially when both players are on 6 cards, that's a little bit of a painful cost for Rug Delver.
Yeah. So on 6 cards, I think Reanimator definitely has the edge in this matchup.
Well, because Gerry presumably has no shortage of cards that say bring back target creature from the graveyard.
Yes. When you're playing against Reanimator, typically you want to be countering the enablers, the discard outlets, and not so much the actual reanimation spells.
So you see Gerry's hand has, I believe, an Exhume and a Reanimate in it.
It also has an Elishnorn.
That one's not as good,
Not as exciting. Probably not getting cast. Right. We're going to try to reanimate again.
He's playing around Daze.
So this is going to take... If this resolves, Gerry will go to 11. Because Gristlebrand, although it's a 7/7 that draws you 7 cards, costs 8.
Right.
Just to annoy me. David Thomas has a Nimble Mongoose we neglected to mention. Not particularly exciting.
He's going to, Lightning Bolt Gerry.
He's going to bolt Gerry, and then presumably play this Daze. Correct? Maybe?
Well, I'm not sure if it accomplishes much to play the Daze. So an interesting note about our standard decks, Blue-White Regular Delver had a win percentage of under 45% at the tournament.
Wow. Gerry is going to Daze.
Gerry will Daze the
Bolt.
A pretty reasonable cast by Gerry here, just because...
He hasn't played a land this turn.
He doesn't have another land to play. Also, there's not really much... Yep. Okay, David,
that's the end of the game.
All right, which is the power of Reanimator right there. You really mulligan to draws that do that sort of thing.
That's exactly right. It's very difficult for Rug to be able to deal with a 7/7.
Mm-hmm.
So looking at the sideboards, what do you suspect Gerry will bring in or what do you suspect David Thomas is going to bring in for Gerry?
Thomas has a very good sideboard for this match. He has 3 Tormods, Crypts, and 2 Gilded Drakes. He also has 2 Pyroblasts and a Red Elemental Blast, all of which are possible things to bring in. I mean, certainly he has things to board out, and he's playing Forked Bolt. He may board out. He's not actually playing Chain Lightning, so he's a little more of a controlling Rug Delver deck. His only burn spells are 4 Lightning Bolts and 2 Forked Bolts, and he only has the 12 creatures.
Right.
So he's a little more seeking to control, and I feel like all those cards will come in at this point.
Now David does have the Scavenging Ooze still, so it's not all is lost.
No, definitely not. I think David has plenty of game here. It seems to me like he's aware of this matchup and the importance of winning it when he was building his deck.
Absolutely. So for Gerry, Jerry has 4 show and tell in his sideboard. What do you think of that?
Jerry has a transformational sideboard.
Yeah,
then.
he sure does. He has 4 show and tell, 2 City traders that are going to come in.
So what he can do is if Thomas is on the Termod's boards in Termod's Crypt, Jerry can kind of catch him off guard. That said, there is still, as long as David Thomas is also boarding in the guild 2 Gilded Drakes and 3 Red Blast variants, I still like where Thomas is in the matchup.
Jerry, just to run down the rest of his sideboard, has Submerge.
Okay. Present also in David's deck.
Present also in David's deck. Not going to be relevant for David, but because Jerry does not have any forests. But
Jerry could, in theory, board that in against David as well.
I'm not sure he needs it, but yes, he could. He also has 2 Echoing Truth, primarily for Leyline of the Void and things like that. I don't think he'll bring that in. He has a Gilded Drake that he probably doesn't need. He also has an Iona. What do you think about Iona?
Well, Iona, you have to compare Iona then to the other reanimation targets.
Yes, I don't think it's better than any of the one-ofs.
Probably not. It may be better than Tidespout Tyrant.
It may be. That's true.
Because the Delver deck can continue to bolt you even when you bounce all their permanents. So I think I might make the swap of Tidespout Tyrant for Iona, actually.
And Jerry Thompson's last sideboard slot is devoted to the card Coffin Purge, which is the original Purify the Grave, common from Odyssey. Don't dwell too much on that because it won't be coming in this matchup. It's just an interesting note.
Right, presumably for the mirror.
Presumably for the mirror, yep. And for Dredge and things of that sort.
Remember, because Jerry can't run a card like Relic of Progenitus because of how his own deck works. And a card like Termon's Crypt, well, Coffin Purge is probably just stronger than that.
Yes. He's looking to... He's a combo deck at heart. So he's looking to just hit the sweet spot, just knock one thing out so that he can burst on through. He's not attempting to look for tempo.
So Jerry, with the Reanimate in his opener, I believe he has Careful Study.
It looks like he had a Ponder. On the other side, David Thomas has at least 2 lands and a Nimble Mongoose, from what I could tell.
Yes. Both players will be keeping, so a Trop into Nimble Mongoose for David Thomas. All right, he has a creature on the board, which is what he wants.
Jerry drew a Gristlebrand. He will be Careful Studying. I assume this Gristlebrand is going into the bin.
This Gristlebrand and this Elesh Norn will probably both be going. He draws a Ponder. Yep.
And a Thoughtseize.
And a Thoughtseize. So excellent for Jerry. I think he may only be on 1 land.
He does have a Ponder, though.
Yep. All right, and there's both our mythic rares hit the yard.
There's our nice big legendary idiots.
Right. All right, Thomas with a Ponder, and fetch land up. Ponder plus fetch land, really a strong interaction.
There's a nice shot at Dave Thomas.
And
looks like he's going to shuffle. I think he had 2 lands and a green creature on top.
It's interesting. He didn't want any of the cards because typically the advantage of Ponder with a fetch land up is that you can just take one of the cards and then get a fresh deck. Thomas, if not, unfortunately, then not liking any of the 3 cards, is going to have to decide to take a blind card instead of one of the 3 knowns.
So, I'm still on my high horse. I don't think Nimble Mongoose is that good right now. It was very good for like a month and a half. I just don't think it's good right now.
When you compare Nimble Mongoose with other, it's an older creature, and not to just harp completely on older creatures, but creatures in Magic really have come a long way since Odyssey.
There's a photo of Jerry Thompson that we have. This was from earlier today.
Yeah. So creatures have come a long way in the sense that I in general would say that there are more powerful cards. Like when you think about the power level of a card like Nimble Mongoose, I think that you can do better normally at a 1-drop. It's it's a 1/1 that actually have to jump through a lot of hoops to make it into a 3/3, and even then all you're getting is a 3/3. And there's lots of cards like a Delver, which is essentially just a 3/3 when you begin with. Obviously, you only can play 4 Delvers, but Mongoose.
Yeah, you need to fill the rest of the slot. That's fine, but Nimble Mongoose is great. I love that card. It's just not good right now.
Well, in this sort of matchup, especially.
It's just a do nothing in this matchup.
Right. It's just too small, and its protection ability is irrelevant.
Jerry has a 2nd land now. Looks like he's going to play the Thoughtseize to try and clear the way. You said he had a Reanimate?
I believe he does.
All right. If he has the Reanimate, here's a Daze.
Jerry will probably just pay it.
I would imagine Jerry just plays this here. Yeah. Jerry's got all the time in the world. I would imagine he would attempt to pay this here.
Thomas presumably has held, if he's playing right, has held the best card in his deck on top with the Ponder.
Right.
But
although he shuffled with, oh no, he cast a second Ponder. That's right.
The second one was not a shuffle, so presumably his best card is not in his hand. His hand is Scavenging Ooze, which will almost certainly be taken. Mongoose and 3 more lands. That is far too many lands.
Yeah.
At this point, Jerry's the coast is totally clear. Well, not completely clear. Like I said, presumably David has a reactive spell on the top of his deck.
What could he have on top? So the cards in his deck that it could presumably be that do anything are Daze, which would do nothing. Force Will, which would do nothing because he has no blue cards. And Spell Pierce, which he can pay for.
It was Tormod's Crypt.
Ah, it was Tormod's Crypt. I see. Well, in that case, never mind.
Certainly a do something.
That is a do something.
Gerry with plenty of reanimation spells in his hand, but that Tormod's Crypt will be an issue for him. And 5 cards in Thomas's graveyard. He has a fetch land.
Including the Scavenging Ooze.
So if you remember, if Gerry goes for something here, the problem is Thomas will crack his Tormod's Crypt, crack his fetch land, and then he will have 2 3/3 Nimble Mongooses. That'll be a 7th card. Both players right now sit, for those of you following at home, sitting at 4-0. Gerry's going to Ponder. And a lot more of the same.
Show and tell. But he's going to shuffle.
Well, he doesn't have, none of the monsters are in his hand anymore.
Right.
Which makes you wonder if it was correct for Gerry to bin both of his mythics on the first turn.
Yeah, I was thinking that actually, but he knows better than I, so.
Sure.
It
depends how many show and tells he's boarded in.
That's true. He has 4 in his sideboard. I don't know how many he's boarded in.
With transformational sideboards, sometimes you can half transform. Gerry's doing a thing where he's transforming, where he's just like doubling up on threats, because I think his main goal is to make one of them resolve. Good job with David Thomas by hiding the Tormod's Crypt on top of the deck as well.
Yes. What do you think about just going for a reanimate here to force his hand with the Tormod's Crypt, going to 10?
Well,
untapping with 2 lands and then ponder into something else.
Well, so then you have to imagine what you want to ponder into. What is it that you're hoping to see? You have to look at Gerry's deck and kind of calculate where his out is. I think eventually he doesn't have, his hand is all reanimate spells. So you're either going to want to draw Monster plus Show and Tell or Monster plus Careful Study. And Monster plus Careful Study may be a little slow because he'll have to use the Animate Dead instead of the Reanimate due to his life total being fairly low. So I think at this point he just ponders, and which is what he's doing, because I think he needs to find out what he has, and that will tell him what he needs. And more lands, more spells will help him do that, as opposed to forcing a hand right now doesn't seem to be as essential.
3rd land for Gerry Thompson, basic island.
It's not bad.
Presumably snagged off the draft table.
And he's going to ponder. Right. So this card dig is going to be excellent. He has a Brainstorm, which I
brought in the Submerges there.
So and he has Entomb Exhume here. So yeah, I'm sure he's keeping this. So what will likely happen is he'll go for an Exhume next turn, which won't work. Because the thing is, by not forcing the play this time, what has happened is that he has kept the Nimble Mongooses off threshold by not forcing the Tormod's Crypt, and he essentially has bought himself another turn.
I see.
Unless, of course, Thomas has a lightning bolt as a top card,
or Thought Scour or something like that.
Right, and that's the worst case, or even.
Now he does have another fetch land in his hand.
Did he have another fetch?
I don't remember. I think he did.
Then maybe that's points for not. Then if he has it, then he did have plenty of lands. Probably one of them was a fetch. I drew a Brainstorm, so regardless, okay. Plays fetch land, casts Brainstorm. The Mongoose will be 6/6. Will swing in for 6. All right.
So this will put Gerry Thompson to 9. Gerry, not exactly on the back foot, but not exactly where
I'd
he
put him
wants
on the
to
back
be either.
foot. That Brainstorm was a draw 3 for Thomas.
That's true.
It's not going to take. It'll only really take 1 Spell Pierce or 1 Red Blast out of Thomas to make Gerry's out almost nothing. So he's hoping for a lot of things to happen here.
There's a Tarmogoyf that gives Gerry his Submerge at target.
Sure. It also puts Gerry on the clock 1 turn slow, so Gerry's got to untap and win.
Yes.
through a turn mod script. So he's going to need a show and tell. And a monster, which seems unlikely.
Yeah.
Okay, so he does have the target for his submerge. Puts it on top. He's going to go for the reanimate. This will almost certainly get countered unless David Thomas drew a bolt, which he did not. So it gets countered. And now Gerry has enough mana to go for it again. To entomb and go for the monster.
Now he has the entomb and the exhume?
He has the entomb and the exhume.
Wow.
Correct.
Gerry played this pretty well. Assuming David did not get a daze or 2 blue cards, one of which is a force of will.
Right.
That's the crapshoot that we're taking, though.
And the submerge means that takes away lightning bolt as an out as well.
Yes. Right. The other thing.
Now, to be fair, if he gets Gristlebrand, he probably will not get Gristlebrand here.
It's probably getting Blazing Archon.
I would imagine it has to be Blazing Archon.
Blazing Archon, a 5/6 rare from Ravnica, I believe.
Yeah, Ravnica proper.
Yeah, it's a flying creature. And it reads, creatures cannot attack you.
Right.
And it costs...
Animate dead it.
It costs 5 white, or 4 white, I believe. Right? Or 5
it
white,
costs
white.
5 white.
It's 5 white. Animate dead, giving it -1, -0, so it's just a 4/6.
Yep.
David Thomas, untapping, playing Tarmogoyf here, can't attack.
Also good choice by Gerry with going with the reanimate first, because that means that the animate dead did not cost him all his life points.
Right. Dave Thomas sort of at the mercy of the top of his deck here.
Gerry draws a show and tell.
Very, very funny.
Remember, the Archon only dealing 4 damage here.
Yeah, David will have 3
animated.
draw steps if he does not activate this fetch land.
Right, and he is looking for a Gilded Drake, would serve him really well.
Yes, he would.
Gerry has a Thought Seize, but that won't do anything against a Gilded Drake. He'll cast it. Sure, it's a land. Alright, Gerry goes to 6. It's given his opponent the... Oh, he's going to show and tell Gristlebrand into play. Alright.
But that'll speed things up.
Alright, and Gerry Thompson winning game 2
fairly quickly, actually.
Yeah,
from what
very well navigated by him.
Yeah, it looked like a very difficult position he was in, but he navigated himself very well out of it. Yeah, played. I mean, I couldn't see anything wrong. I mean, it's Gerry Thompson. How am I supposed to see anything wrong? You know what I mean? I'm just a human being.
Gerry Thompson is capable of mistakes just like the rest of us.
That's right.